morning, everybody. Chef with Riding Free. Welcome back to the channel. If you are coming back after the first couple of videos, I appreciate you. If you are new here, hope you will enjoy the content, and please hit the like and subscribe button. So today's vlog, I want to talk about something a little bit different that some people may not really want to talk about or hear about, but I think it's important as a rider when you experience different things in your riding journey. But I almost quit riding a couple of times in my lifetime of riding. The first time was years ago, 2007. I was riding with my boss at the time, and we went out for a day ride, had lunch a couple of hours away from home just to have somewhere to go. And on the way back on the expressway, making some good time getting back, and as we got off to the exit, or got up to the exit where I was supposed to get off, I exited the highway, and he continued on to the very next exit and got in a crash. It was a left-hand turn, kind of going over a little bit of a hill, and there was some traffic backed up for an accident, and he couldn't see it and ended up hitting a car or two and went down. I'd never really considered, per se, the idea of being in a crash. I always knew it was a possibility, but never really had given it much thought, because most people don't. You're too engulfed in the riding experience and having a good time, and it just never really crossed my mind. But when that happened to him, kind of hit close to home, and he was okay, had some road rash, no broken bones or anything, but at the time my kids were small, and I decided that I was going to quit riding. I ended up selling my motorcycle and immediately regretted it. But sometimes you just have to go with what your decisions are. So I didn't have a motorcycle for a little period of time, and I really missed it. Felt like a part of me was missing, and I ended up getting another bike. So when I got the next bike, made the choice to get back on, it was really at that time an easy choice. Time had passed, the idea of the accident and everything was gone out of my mind, so I just start riding. So one of the things that I had contemplated during that period of time was being able to control me, not being able to control other people on the road or other dynamics, but I had control of me. I am a safe rider, so I just had to take the mindset that I was going to continue to make sure that I was safe while riding, and just be precautious for everybody else. So I got a bike in 2009. I traded that in and got a 2010 Ultra, and I always had the same mindset. I can only control me, so I just rode and had a good time. In July of 2019, I took a motorcycle trip from Georgia to Toronto. During the course of that ride, we had a tropical storm that had made landfall and was spiraling up through the United States, and I knew when I left that I was going to encounter a couple of whips of this storm on my way north. And as I went north, I ended up getting the first whip of the storm in Knoxville, Tennessee. Put on my rain gear and just pushed through it. I ended up hitting a couple little more spurts of rain on the way up. And when I got to like Erlanger, Kentucky, coming into Cincinnati, traffic volume obviously increases because you're coming into a big city and there's some big hills there. And I ended up getting hit really good with rain. All I could do was laugh and riding in that rain. I had nowhere to go. I couldn't see a few feet in front of the motorcycle, but I persevered, moved forward. Well, as I got further into Ohio, I could see the storm coming again, and I decided I was going to get off the highway and take a rest for a minute, get some gas, use the bathroom, get a drink, check in with my wife, let her know everything was okay. As I exit the highway, it just starts to dump like a light switch. And as I turn onto the road where the gas station is, unbeknownst to me at the time from the highway, that road was a brand new paved, resurfaced road, and they had all the storm drains blocked off, and there was standing water all over, several inches. As I turned into the gas station, I could feel the front wheel start to push a little bit, and instead the back wheel came out from underneath me and threw me off the bike. Bike went down onto the left side. Thankfully I was okay. Just broke the left mirror off the motorcycle, bent the highway peg in a little bit, caused some cosmetic damage. But at that point in that ride, I was heading towards Toronto. My mom lives in Michigan. I was going to stop to her house. I was much closer to her house than I was to heading back home. So I had no choice. Just hopped back on the bike and took off. It kind of rattles you for a second because I didn't expect that to happen. I've ridden in the rain plenty of times, standing water, and just never expected it to happen. But it happened so fast, it was over before I knew what was going on. That was obviously an easy decision because I knew I just had to get back on and go. But it definitely shakes you a little bit with your mentality and being able to ride at that point. But I continued on to my mom's house. I continued on to Toronto and made my destination, and did not have any issues. August 26th, almost three years to the day from this video, I left work late, and working public safety, I had a work car, so I dropped my work car off where I had parked it, got on the motorcycle. I had religiously ridden that motorcycle every single day as my means of transportation for several years. So I got back on the motorcycle to go home, and I literally parked the work car less than a mile from where I lived. And as I was going home, I turned onto a road, and there was a lot of traffic on the southbound section of the lane, and there's a gas station there with a little side exit. And as I was going northbound in the northbound lane, I could see over a car that was to the left of me, something had moved, and before I knew it, there was a Nissan Maxima in my lane in front of me, and I was staring at a teenage girl face to face as she notices that I'm about to hit our car. At that point, they were literally 2 feet in front of me. So my reaction, of course, was to hit the brakes, which I did there was a little skid mark on the pavement, but I ended up hitting the side of that car. And I don't remember the accident other than what had happened. So I assume that I hit the side of the car, flew over the car, and hit the cement. First thing I remember was just a loud ringing noise in my head. And I knew that I was laying on the ground. I knew there was cars around. My first thought was to make sure that I'm safe and to get out of the road. So I get up and I'm trying to get my bearings about me. There are people that are standing there helping me. And one guy is a biker and is talking to me and making sure that I'm okay. I noticed as I got up I couldn't breathe very well, and asked somebody to make sure that they called an ambulance for me. I happened to notice my motorcycle was pointing southbound in the southbound lane at the time. The ambulance showed up, fire department showed up, told them I needed to go to the hospital, couldn't breathe. I'd spent a long time as a paramedic, so I knew that I had a hole in my lung and definitely needed to go to the hospital. When I got to the ER, I explained to them I could not breathe. I was sure that I did not lose consciousness because I didn't necessarily feel like I had at the time, but obviously I did. I did have a mark on my helmet where my head had hit the ground. Thankfully, I was wearing a good helmet. It was a DOT approved helmet, which protected my squash. The last thing I need is to get any uglier from anything, so the helmet definitely served its purpose in what it was supposed to do. But they did some x-rays. Definitely had a hole in my lung. I had some broken ribs underneath my left shoulder blade. And as they took me to CAT scan, I quickly found out that I had a broken leg. As I went to stand from the ER bed to the CAT scan table, I had no idea I'd been up walking around. I even climbed into the ambulance. So that just goes to show you that, you know, your nervous system and your adrenaline at the time doesn't let you know those things. Definitely was not obvious at the time. So I spent a couple of days in the hospital, and then I went home to recuperate. I had an outstanding support system. My wife did an excellent job taking care of me. Very close friends stopped by and would sit with me or check on me, bring me food. So I ended up being okay. I had to do some physical therapy for some ankle issues, from not being able to use my foot for a while. But I ended up being okay, thankfully. But my wife had asked me several times, and she rides, so she understands how it feels to ride, but she asked me if I was going to ride again. And initially after the accident, my first response was no. Definitely not going to ride again, because I was in pain. But as I started to feel better, and as some friends of mine came to pick up my motorcycle to take it to the shop to get it fixed, it really started to click in my head that I wanted to ride again. Because it was a part of me, it was a part of who I am, it was a part of how I feel. I personally don't get any same feeling of what I do like I do when I'm riding. So I knew I wanted to ride again, and they're gonna fix my bike. So I continued to get better, and then I got really anxious about wanting to ride. I was glad that I felt that again. I mean, initially when I was recuperating and my wife was taking me to a doctor's appointment, when I was even in the car traveling to the doctor the first time out of the house, there was a car that was coming down a side street on the right, and I was in the passenger seat of the car, and the car stopped at the stop sign, but just the movement of the car and the way that the car stopped, it freaked me out. I panicked in the passenger seat of the car. So don't let anybody tell you when situations like that happen that you're not going to have some, you know, PTSD from a traumatic event and going through something like that. And I knew that was something that I was going to have to deal with in getting back on the motorcycle and being able to ride again. So as I got the motorcycle back and went for my first ride, it was a very short ride, but the whole goal was to just get back on the motorcycle, get out, get a few miles underneath my belt, and see how things would go. And when I went out, definitely a little bit anxious, but I started to immediately feel right back at home on the motorcycle. You can do it. You just have to have the mindset. If you really enjoy riding and you enjoy the freedom of being on the motorcycle, if something bad like that happens to you, don't worry about feeling apprehensive or anxious, because that's a natural emotional response. But if you make the decision to get back on the motorcycle, know that it's something that you're going to have to adjust to. And I've had several friends who've been in accidents, and you know, I've talked to them about their experience, and everybody says the same thing, that getting back on the motorcycle is, you know, something that you just have to make that decision to do. Nobody can influence your decision. It has to be your decision to make, but you just got to remember what you feel on the motorcycle. And I've been back on the motorcycle 3 years, done long distance trips, ride back and forth to work, I go out riding with friends, and I don't have any regrets, because this is something that I love to do. It literally is a part of who I am, you know, as a person. And obviously now my job is motorcycle industry, so it is definitely part of me and what I do. So I'm very thankful and happy that I made the decision to get back on and ride. My wife continues to ride. Both of my sons continue to ride. Going back to what I said earlier, you can only control you. You cannot control anybody else. And it doesn't matter if you're on a motorcycle. And yes, motorcycles are a dangerous hobby or something you do in your life. We can't understand or know the why and how of those things, but things happen, and I just live by the approach of, when it's my time to go, it's my time to go. I will control me to the best of my ability. I will control what it is that I do in my life and move forward. I also live by the mantra that you can't die if you don't live. You don't get a test ride in life. Life is very short. Things happen. Everybody has experienced a personal loss close to them, and you know, just makes you realize that life is short, time is precious. It's the only commodity in life that you never get back. I don't even think that you get a return on your investment of time in life. So make the most of what it is that you do. Make the most of going out and riding. Have fun. So that will do it for today's vlog, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. If you have not already hit the like and subscribe button, please do so. Until next time, remember, thank those that allow us to be out riding free. Have fun in what you do, and always be safe. See you next time.